Join us in this enlightening episode with Brendan Williams, CEO of Indiana Testing, Inc. Brendan specializes in the Department of Transportation compliance for fleets and highlights the importance of having a robust, technologically advanced safety, training, and drug testing platform. And he addresses the hidden unintended risks of fleets that use antiquated technology or none at all. Brendan's insights shed light on how ITI streamlines operations, fleets compliance, safety while reducing risk. Tune in to this invaluable experience from Brendan as we discuss his enlightened journey. Hey, Brendan, thanks for joining me today, man. How are
Thanks,
you?
Steve, for having me. I'm good. How are you?
Good. I appreciate you jumping on and chatting a little bit about Indiana Testing's technology and what really led you to invest so much in the technology of your company.
That's an interesting turn as we've seen in the industry of antiquation of paper and the aspects of really being able to have the answers at your fingertips at all times for aspects of cost flow, anytime from one extreme to another of an audit, really being able to streamline the aspects of keeping a good driver, being able to recruit them. I mean, we're seeing average aspects all over that it's really hard to hold and retain a driver due to the loss of someone else picking them off and vice versa. And one thing that we find to be so worthy and staying kind of at the cuff of technology is companies are also having like HR issues. Some of them are different in safety. And what I mean by that is trucking is a main point of their focus, but they may also have construction costs, or they may have safety protocols with electric or pipeline industries and vice versa. And that safety director may be specialized only in certain parts, but need a company like ITI to be more full circle, full turnkey, to provide them with now answers, not something 24 or 48 hours later. Like paper does. Paper is a great tool. I say keep in the classrooms so that kids can write down their thoughts and notes. But in today's world, it's a day late, dollar short. It's antiquated. And I find so many industries that are like, oh, we'll send you over how to do a D2F. We'll send you over how to do a drug test. We'll send you over, and then you fill it all out. And I'm like, that driver's gone. Somebody else has already hired him. Electronic chain of custodies, electronic motor vehicle records, everything at your fingertips, fully customized. I think that's a big part of, like, we always talk about in America when people make jokes that we don't build anything. Yeah, maybe not so much automotive like the Japanese or vice versa, but we do, and it's tech. And technology is something that we really gear a lot of our focus in a world that it's very niche. There's not a lot of CTPA, certified third-party drug and alcohol providers. We always kind of call that first base, because you got to have a drug and alcohol policy. You got to have be able to do pre-employments, randoms, post, etc. But what's the next flow? How do you continue compliance? How do you keep up with the company? How do you help them streamline their operational cost? We find it's interesting. Small fleets to large scale, very different salaries for safety individuals. I mean, we've seen some companies start at 50 or 60,000 starting off to companies that are in $250,000 to $500,000. And based on how many drivers you have, break that down. And usually we look at someone like ITI who's like, we can do that for about 1/5. And we're insured. And we'll do it in a timely manner. And you have multiple points of contacts and vice versa. So our whole aspect on really being able to provide technology is also being able to back it up with customer service. That's our big flow is, utilizing great tools, trades, as well as information from people who are still here in Indiana, phone call away, just in case you have an issue and you're like, hey, I'm online, I'm filling out everything, it's all working, get them in great. By the way, I found out that we're going to start getting into hazardous material. We're going to need a hazmat training course. I'm going to need to be able to build that into my portal for all my new guys. I'm going to need a 3-year auto refresher. Like, yeah, we'll build your entire custom portal and we'll put in all the hazmat training for you. We'll put in reasonable suspicion, safety. You need data queue challenges. You want to look at being able to, as an owner, we find a lot of owners who are like, hey, I'm hiring a guy, he came from insurance or he came from a trucking company, but I don't know how good he is on our maintenance. I don't know how good he is on our hours of service. I don't know all of these things, but it's hard for me to question that individual in an interview because myself as an owner doesn't know all of that. So Mike Addison's like, here's a whole list of questions I would ask, and here's how the answers need to be. We've had safety consultants literally go on interviews with some of our large companies to hire safety directors.
What I'm hearing is like from your technology side is right, you're using more modern technology. You're using technology, and a lot of the companies out there are still on paper, but that's really improving a lot of things. The efficiency of the hiring side of the hiring of the drivers, the overall compliance, the speed the hire, which is one of the things that you touched on, is how fast you can speed the hire, the user experience, the user being the driver side of it. And I particularly like that you guys are really the specialist in, I say, the industry. It's not a jack of all trades and all regulations of electricity, as you touched on, to electrical, the DOT compliance, maybe even some food grade compliance in there as well. That you guys aren't a jack of all trades. You're very highly specialized and focused on keeping DOT fleets compliant and under proper regulation, which is exciting. And knowing you guys for so long as I have, and you guys really being one of the leaders in the industry, what are some of the challenges that these smaller companies are running into when they use maybe another DOT or drug testing compliance company that doesn't have technology or isn't utilizing that?
A lot of times what they may find is a smaller shop that maybe has one person who's saying, well, I can pull your random, or I can put you in a pool. A lot of your smaller fleets, a lot of the times you're finding the executives are actually driving. They're sometimes being able to outreach to 15, 20 companies, or they're doing payroll, and maybe they're doing some HR stuff. Maybe they're working on the hiring practices. And what we find with a lot of the smaller industry, what I would call like a clinic or a co-op of some type, is that it's kind of cookie cutter. It's kind of like, here is this from Quest. Here's a paper chain of custody. Go do your drug test. And they're like, well, my guy is already in the truck. He's already here. Knock his pre-employment. His random's in California. Oh, well, then just notify him when he gets back. We have over 16,000 clinics completely set up through a CRL-based platform, all at the tip of ITI's fingers for electronic chain of custodies. I can send a barcode to a driver's cell phone, and all he or she has to do is walk in, scan it. They know it's a random. They know it's a 5-panel. They know it's FMCSA. We have different entities. Yeah, we have some really cool clients that actually have FMCSA, but that driver could drop off like a pipe for the PHMSA, which is the pipeline industry. If he was pulled for a PHMSA, the barcode knows exactly which one to pick. So they don't get confused when they go into a clinic. The clinic's like, oh, I'm going to put on a house account. I'm going to make it a non-DOT, because they don't care. They only care about the money and the procurement of that moment. They don't care about the end circle. And that's a big thing about ITI is I like to be all bases covered, full circle. Everything, make sure that the driver on his or her route, you're not going to call them in the middle of a route. They're waiting in the Walmart line to drop off a load. They can sit there for 3 hours. They can't leave that line. So we work with recruiters, dispatchers, Omnitracks, different aspects, and making sure that, hey, if we're actually going to pull a random and contact this individual, where is it going to be done at? Where other companies don't. And that's what we find is there's always holes. I hate saying this, but a lot of inexperience creates Swiss cheese. It looks good on a sandwich, but sometimes it just falls right through. And so I take a lot of pride in making sure that we, all jokes aside on ITI, dot our I's and cross our T's.
One of the things that I really like about you guys, right? You're based here in the Midwest, in Indiana, but you do business in all states nationwide. Right. I always tend to think, well, it must be easy if it's a really large company because they have a lot more resources, or it might be really easy as a small organization, a small fleet, because they don't have as many responsibilities or many kind of challenges or moving pieces in the business. But could you share maybe a success story on either a small company that moved from maybe an more antiquated company, or one that wasn't using paper that moved over to a more modern company like yourself, of either size, maybe a small one or a large one, that really benefited from using the services ITI?
Is one of the largest underground pipeline electrical aspects, and they came from basically kind of like a recruiting based company, and they held about 2,500 drivers at that time. Now, most of these guys were union, and some of them drive vehicles that are over 16,001 pounds, so they need a DQF, but didn't all fall under the 26,001 pounds. So at first, you have to know the regulations of who needs a drug test, who doesn't, who needs a driver qualification file, a motor vehicle record, who doesn't, depending on what industry they're in. these guys are electrical. They need to have a great HR team. You need to be able to partner with like a Workday, a Workforce. You need to be able to work with these companies from an HR side so that the compliance and the drivers filling out one application. Nobody likes to fill out multiple aspects. It's heartbreaking. They paid, close to $250,000 to $500,000 a year for compliance. Like only had about 1,800 out of 25 drivers ever complete in compliance. They had a huge audit. They didn't pass. They were furious. One of their general contractors, who is like one of their head safety individuals, we make a joke. It was a $250,000 a day guy. If he wasn't there pushing the button, nobody could work. Former company is like, well, it's going to take 5 to 6 days for the drug test. It's going to take a week to complete the driver qualification file. Well, there's 5 critical documents that should be knocked out in a couple of days or less, depending on good vital information. And then a aspect of being able to pull a criminal background check for that company at that time, who was part of a contract with the National Grid. We knocked it all out in less than like 3 days, got them on and finished everything within 7 and saved the company roughly a couple $1 million. Of course, therefore won the contract, ended up helping them grow. What's interesting about it is they also got bought out by a company called like MasTec, one of the largest national grid companies in the world, for over like $416 million. And they actually here, 2 of their head individuals did an audit completely of ITI and Intren, and we won so much that we were able to get shade tree, 3-phase. We were able to basically, any and all companies they buy now comes under the ITI complete compliance umbrella. And it's been a success story for all of us. It's been something where we took a lot of great pride into saying, what do you need customly made to make your company better? Because trucking was a main point, but safety, compliance, and everything else was actually how they made their money. And that is an interesting story, because a lot of people don't realize that, which we'll talk about with a smaller company, is sometimes you may start off with trucking and you may be in brokerage and you may be moving a product to make money. And then you grow into a different sector because you're maybe able to buy it, or you saw that it is actually a better profit margin. And you find that, hey, this may deal more with having drivers, but not moving freight for money, moving freight for ourselves so that we can do construction, or moving freight so we can do concrete, or whatever else could be. And knowing what to do and how to think ahead, how to really have the plan of success, you'll miss so many crappy potholes, and that you'll be way more successful. And we always talk about this: less red tape, the better. We'll find new clinics anywhere. You can get a physical for less than $95 at any place. We're able to streamline all of your motor vehicle records, all your DQFs. If your driver moves to another company, or like, let's say that this happens a lot in smaller companies, they buy off a section or sell off a section to somebody else, we can pull up the randomizations that they've had. We already know they were in a random pool for 30-something days or less. Therefore, they don't need to have a new pre-employment. We can share it. If 2 owners are like brothers or vice versa, and they're son, we can get that data over so those drivers can start driving for you today, start allowing you to make money. They're not held in this box of gray that costs so much money.
I love that. I like how the flexibility that you guys provide, not just in the services that you provide, but also building out on the technology, the streamline, the application, the onboarding, and the compliance regulation of these companies, especially, as you said, from one truck operations, the hundreds, the thousands of trucks, no matter what state they're in. And that it's really what I'm hearing from you is that it's not a cost to do this. It's really expense mitigation and expense reduction of the hassle and the headaches and the potential DOT violations, or heaven forbid, litigation that comes out through it. So it's really exciting to kind of see how you guys work with companies to not just provide them with the testing and compliance, but how that's such an important part of the overall growth of that organization. And as you said, you guys have been doing it since 1992. So congratulations on that. Right. And obviously starting in 1992 as a small company, maybe wrap up with what advice do you have for companies out there that are unsure about the necessity of using a company with modern technology, or a company with technology at all?
I think what's difficult in any sector is when people are afraid of something they don't know anything about, is being able to personally be invited. I would tell anybody who maybe is different generation, who was very used to, maybe they're a smaller company, their husband or wife or nephew or vice versa still kind of holds the financials or holds the compliance, but they look at the next turn. How do I become a better company, or how do I get ready to sell my company for a solid profit? And really having everything wrapped up and kind of clear and cut for you as the owner, and then being able to put what you want in front is so important. We tell a lot of companies, we've had federal auditors have to do like a new entrant audit, or sometimes because of a driver complaint comes in, they say, hey, all the driver files are in my paper file over there, go through it. They start going through it, like, well, we were looking for Mr. Williams. He's the one who actually called in, but we found James over here that you hired 5 years ago, and you missed this one document. Well, we didn't come here for that because you supplied it for us. We now found a $10,000 violation. Where it's like, oh my goodness gracious, we've had companies call and say, hey, I got a new intern audit. I need 10 of my DQFs sent over to me. I'm going to send you the 10 best DQFs for an audit all day long so that you have it on record, you have it on file. A lot of times they just want to know in the last 2 years who you've hired and what you've done. Sometimes less is more. But what I mean by that is structured compliance that is to a T at your fingertips, not rifling through paper, not being afraid of change. And that's a big factor for us is, I make a little joke here. Our senior consultant, Mike Addison, phenomenal, still has a hard time typing, but literally loves technology when it makes his life better. At 77 years old, can talk with any company and help them understand that, hey, paper kind of equals people, and people's getting really expensive. I know that to some individuals, they already know that, but as humans, we also create mistakes. And what you'll find a lot of times with an automated system that's designed with autofills, with blocks until the information is filled out, it allows you as an owner or a CH director or vice versa to sleep a little bit better at night when you know that everything is typed up in a nice little bow and is electronically backed up by a company like ITI, who will send out some of the best consultants to represent you if there's an audit. So if you don't actually have time or you're not in the mood, we'll send somebody to represent for you. So,
hey, thanks again, Brendan, for joining me today. That is awesome on how you're working with fleets of all sizes across the country, utilizing your modern technology. It's made me realize just how important of a role your company is to the overall supply chain, and how important it is to keeping our roads safe. So I think everything that you do for the supply chain and keep the roads safe, Brendan.
Thank you so much, Steve, for having me. I truly appreciate it. As you can tell, it's a passion of mine. It's something that a lot of people don't know. I've been doing it for 16 years. My father started it in 1992 as a complete passion with having 5 children. Really like the idea of giving back to the community and making something better that really, as a Hoosier in Indiana, crossroads of America, but when you really think of all across the continental United States in any and all trucking, it has been something that America has really made when you think about it. Like when people say, oh, manufacturing, vice versa, there isn't any country out there that I know that has more trucks, more power, more moving, and there's a lot of value and a lot of respect in that. So that's why ITI was created, is to provide companies with full compliance, a state of mind, as well as help the general.
Again, thank you for being on and everything you do, Brendan. Definitely can feel the passion that you have for the industry, and certainly it's contagious. So thanks again.